welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this 11th, a Thursday, the 11th of April, 2024. Thank you for tuning in. The more I think about it, the more I think I was right about that. I think the Fed saw, well, we've been waiting for years. We knew it's been coming. This big meteoric rise in the gold price and silver price. And perhaps the Fed saw it coming, but more than us. They probably knew exactly when it was going to occur. I think they let interest rates rise. This little rise that we see in they control the markets. They got complete control. On the long end, this rise in the 10-year and the 30-year and the yields, I think they were controlling that. I think secretly they're controlling the yield curve on the long end of the yield curve. It's called yield curve control. Of course, they wouldn't do that openly. The reason why is because the effect it would have on inflation. And I think they saw this coming. Maybe gold was going to go to 26, 25, 26, 2,700 in almost overnight. And they might have said, oh, okay, we got to stem this off. So what do we see right now with the gold price? You know, it's at 23.38. So it was a rise, a considerable rise in the gold price. But if I'm right about this, I'm just saying, if I'm right about this, maybe it was going to be like 2,600 and it's 23.38 instead. Maybe they muted it by allowing the bond market to increase in the yields. Take a look here. Just recently, let's take a look at this 10-year here. We pull up the chart, and we'll take a look at quite recently here. Oh, come on, chart. Whoop. Okay, so we're gonna have to go. Let's try 3. Let's try this one right here. Okay, see this rise. I mean, we were down here at let's see, about 4.1%, and we've risen all the way up to 4.5. Where it is right now, it's heading toward 5%. 4.58, and heading toward 5%. This should be very negative for gold, you know, but we still seen gold rising with it, and it puzzled me a little bit. And maybe the reason why is because maybe it was going to rise a lot higher. Well, why would they do that? Why would they try to stem that off and try to mute it? Or at least turn a knob so that it lessens the effect on gold and silver. Why would they do that? Because of the effect the gold and silver price has on the dollar itself. The dollar's basic fundamental behind the dollar, and it was up until 1971, it was actually tied directly to the gold standard. Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, but he didn't really, because people consider how much is their dollar worth by how much gold they can buy with it. Less amount of gold you can buy with your dollar, you can't tell them otherwise. Gold is still the standard, the gold standard. Moving on, we're going to get into the news right now. We're going to take a look. Honest to gosh, you know, a Russian missile strike just happened, incinerated a massive Ukrainian power plant. Why is that important? Because we've been hearing about them attacking power plants for months now. It says this is a harrowing moment when Vladimir Putin incinerated one of the largest power stations in Ukraine. This station, it says, they showed the footage of fire raging inside the coal-fired thermal power plant. I can't pronounce that. Tripisca coal-fired power plant. It says it supplies. Why this is important, critically important to Ukraine, is it supplies half of Kiev's energy. Now, Kiev is the biggest city in Ukraine, and it's a big city. I mean, it would rival some of the cities. Say, maybe something like the size of Chicago or something. It's a big city, and half you knock out this power plant, and evidently it's knocked out because let's take a look here. This is what's left of it. A burning fire. Take away half the power to a big city like that, you got a problem. If it's permanently down, that power in half of the city. Modern cities rely upon the power grid to maintain control and law and order, even. You derive a big city, like millions of people, power, and the city starts to crumble to pieces if the power's off for too long. So this is a major blow, unless they can do something about this to get power restored to half of Kiev. It says there's no casualties in the attack. It says the Kremlin, in other words Russia, has escalated its campaign that has devastated the country's energy infrastructure in recent weeks. So we know where they're coming at Ukraine. They're coming at Ukraine, trying to put Ukraine in the dark. That's what they're trying to do right now. Now, Von Greyers has said that gold and silver are entering their exponential phase. And this is probably very well so right now. They're starting to enter this exponential phase. And this, no matter what the Fed does, I don't think they're going to be able to stop this ultimately. Because as they have to finally come into the rescue of the financial system at a certain point, the inflation monster's really going to take off. It's already sticky. It's really sticky inflation. And, the more they wage war and the more the price of oil goes up, inflation is going to take total control in the end. And it's also a mindset that people get into where you realize that if you don't buy it right now, if you put off buying something, say you need a new refrigerator, if you put off buying it for 6 months, it's going to cost you 20% more or 30% more. So you go out and you buy it today. And when everybody gets in that kind of a mindset, they spend their money as fast as they get it. And savers are fools. At a certain point, that becomes clearly obvious. And this is the final stage of the destruction of the currency. It's called a crack-up boom or hyperinflation, ultimately. Well, the crack-up boom leads to the hyperinflation. We're getting closer by the day. Listen, every time I do a show, we're getting one day closer to this occurring. And you notice how I've been talking for years about how gold and silver are going to come unhinged. You notice how I've been watching them, that process starting, and I'm not saying much about it because it was pretty much foreordained it was going to happen. Well, this is pretty much foreordained too, that this is going to happen. Yes, the central bank does have control over it. Yes, the central bank could stop the inflation, really stop it, but they would destroy the entire economy to do so. That would be such a bitter pill because they've expanded. What they've done is they've expanded the monetary supply through this debt-based system to a point now where it's so over-leveraged that you cannot deleverage it any longer without destroying it. It's impossible. And so none of them are going to destroy the system. They ain't going to do that. That just ain't going to happen. So the alternative to that, on the other side of that coin, is because inflation is on an exponential, because this Ponzi scheme's on an exponential, they're going to have to let it go in the end. They're going to have to remove the stops. In other words, raise interest rates again. Go back to quantitative easing again. Call it something else. Don't bother calling it quantitative easing, because then people will catch on to your scam. But, by all other names, it'll still be quantitative easing. And interest rates being cut. And who knows what more shenanigans they'll pull to try to inject money into the system to keep this whole rigged game going. It's all going to translate into inflation. So that's where we're going. And gold and silver at some point are going to go meteoric. I mean meteoric. That's the place you need to have your tied up your that's the place you need to be, is in real physical gold and silver when all this comes down in the end. There's no stopping that in the end. It's just a question of how long is all of this going to take. But you got to realize, even though we've waited so long, it's on an exponential. And it's the final stages of an exponential. It moves really quick. So you get that hockey stick moment. Now, look, China here is saying it. They're saying it very clearly. Xi Jinping is saying it. That Taiwan reunification. Taiwan, he says, no force can stop this reunion with Taiwan. Nobody can stop it. Amid heightened tensions between China and Taiwan, Chinese President Xi Jinping told a former Taiwanese president who supports unification that the countries belong together. Different systems cannot change the fact that both sides of the Taiwan Strait belong to the same country and nation, he said. In other words, China. He says external interference cannot stop the historical trend of reunion of the country and family, Xi said in a comments reported by Taiwanese media and published by Reuters. In other words, Taiwan it's almost attached. It's so close to China. There's just a little strait of water between the two. That's it. It's like right in their own backyard. And of course, pressure, because Taiwan is the world's biggest chip manufacturer, and the world needs those chips to make everything from cell phones to computers to cars and everything else. The West doesn't want to let Taiwan go. I don't blame them, And China is wanting to reunify and have Taiwan back. It's a very strategically important island. So China is making sanctions right now. So the United States is not the only one that can do sanctions. It says China has sanctioned 2 U.S. defense companies because they support arms sales to Taiwan. So we can see the tension there already, that China is going to actually sanction 2 U.S. defense companies because they're selling arms to Taiwan, because they support. It doesn't say they're selling arms to Taiwan. I just noticed that. It says that they support arms sales to Taiwan. Maybe they're selling it. I just don't know about that. Now, I found this interesting, guys. These guys were castaways in the Pacific Ocean. Boy, that was smart. They got stuck. It says the crew of the Hawaii-based HC-13OJ Hercules aircraft makes contact with 3 mariners stranded on Picolot Atoll. That must be the name of the island that they were stranded on. In the Federated States of Micronesia. So what they did was they took palm fronds off of the trees and they laid them in it to make the word help. It got them rescued. It must be some gut-wrenching feeling, to be stranded on a deserted island, like in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And you're so far off the shipping lanes and stuff that you don't see anybody flying by or no sign of human life. It's almost like you're living on Mars. And you're there and you've got to live off the resources that exist around you, maybe coconuts or whatever you can find, But that was smart. I just thought that was really smart what they did, and it got them rescued. Now silver today is 27.77. What I notice about silver and gold is they've had an extensive little rally here. And for years now, we've had a few of these rallies before in the past. I remember one in particular. What was it that triggered it? Brexit. I covered it on my show when it happened, when they surprised the world. Britain. They took the vote for Brexit and they voted yes to exit the European Union. Silver shot up like a rocket. I think it shot up to around this price. It shot up awful high anyway at the time. But it shot right up and then it shot right back down again. I notice that this rally, whenever we get big rallies like that, typically over the past number of years since I've been reporting on my channel, it'll shoot right up to a certain price, like, like we see up high, quite a high jump in the price, and then it goes right back down again. This time it's not. It's sticking around. It's being awful sticky. Like $27.81. What was it? $28, but now it's $27.81. Still high. It doesn't come down to like 24 or anything like that. It's being sticky up in these higher price, little bit higher price level. That's a good sign. That's a bullish sign to me. Gold today is 23.38, and in fact, we even see gold up today. 23.38. It's up $5.10. So, and we're getting a lot of bullish signs from cryptocurrency too. Bitcoin is 69,753. I wonder if this time it'll be able to pass that 72,000 mark and move to 73, 74, 75. Head on up to $80, 80,000 bucks. I mean, so it's at 69,753 today. Ethereum is at 34.95, and XRP is at 60.7 cents. Now, taking a look at the Dow, and you see what's happened here. The Dow is riding nice and high, and then they come along and this is at the expense. This drop we see right here is at the expense of them, I think, suppressing the gold price. They're sacrificing the Dow by letting the bond yields on the long end run up. And in fact, if the bond yields exceed 5% on the U.S. 10-year, you're going to expect a correction in this. I think we'll enter into correction territory if that happens. If we go over 5%. Now, that's just my opinion on it, but I think we'd enter into correction territory in the markets. Taking a look at the bond yields today. I got to go back page here. Take a look at the full yields. You can see the long end today is rising. We're looking at the 10 years up 1.2 basis points. It's starting to taper down a little bit. It's not moving as fast as it was. 4.57 on the US 10 year and 4.66 on the US 30 year. The US 30 year is up 3.5 basis points. But that long end's coming unhinged, unglued a little bit. And I can't help but think that they've been controlling the long end. I don't know how, but I think that, and I think they've relinquished that control to tame the gold price a little bit. I might be totally wrong about that, but I just, this whole thing's just took me a little bit by surprise. The gold rally into a rising bond yield market, it's like, but like I say, maybe it was totally ready to happen. Now, the U.S. dollar index today at 105.5. So the dollar's up and riding high and strong today, very strong. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.